is a legend of one man who persuaded his friends to watch every Godzilla movie ever made. This world is on the brink of destruction. We need you now, Godzillavangelists! Godzillavangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, produced and hosted by Ryan Sargent, featuring Sam Schlenker and Joanna Brodecki. Hello and welcome to Godzillavangelists. I'm Ryan, and I'm happy to have my pals Sam and Joanna here.
Woo!
We've got a lot to do and see today, so we're just going to start off with a rousing Gamera chorus. Do you have your hymn books at the ready?
Absolutely.
All right.
Warmed up and ready to rock. This handshake gets me every time. Oh, yes. Let's cut and poke, my favorite line. Yay! Let's cut and poke.
Let's cut and poke. And we're not alone here today. We have our guest, Joanna's friend, Fiona Collinson. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. It is an honor to finally make it here. It's been a long time coming.
Fiona was sitting at a table with multiple of our friends the other weekend and realized that even if they had not attended, I had invited majority.
Joanna and I have been very, very dear friends for a decade now, and for the last 5 years of that decade, she's been doing this podcast, and I've heard all about the podcast for years, but I didn't realize that there was a guest component. And then about 2 weeks ago, I'm sitting around a table with a bunch of our friends, and slowly but surely the podcast comes up, and I realize every single person at the table had either been on the podcast or been invited on the podcast, except me. So I threw an absolute fit, and I said, if you don't have me on the podcast, friendship over.
and to be fair, I just thought, it wasn't going to be her vibe. And when we when we started watching the first movie, she goes, okay, wait, who's Godzilla again? Is that the monkey guy? So, again, and then she felt a little gypped that she didn't actually get a real Godzilla film. She still has yet to, embark on that.
I don't know.
But
I feel like deeply connected to Gamera now, though, so it's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good. Yes, you've made a new friend.
I have.
When he bleeds, you bleed.
I always ask this of every guest. What was your giant monster experience before this?
Like, basically nothing. Like, I am a first-time giant monster viewer. Like, I don't know how I just skipped that whole genre, but this really, I guess maybe I've seen like a King Kong movie. Like,
maybe, but again, you didn't even recognize,
Like, does Jurassic Park count?
Not quite, in my opinion. We've defined kaiju, which is the Japanese word for monster, as it has to be at least 20 feet long or tall, and it has to be supernatural in some way.
Oh.
So since dinosaurs are like real animals, they can't
Then
count.
yeah, you can consider me a virgin.
That's all right. You can put on your virginal vestments and join us in the Godzillavangelists temple.
Wow,
Yeah.
Lucky me.
I still feel like a newbie, and again, 5 years, what?
Well, Joanna, the reason we're on this show is because we had never seen any of these either.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Basically, Fiona, you were us 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe in 5 years I will be where Joanna is at today.
Jaded and still confused.
Yeah.
barely remembering anything that happened in any specific movie.
Don't ask
Despite
me.
having
Yep.
seen like 72 of them.
Yeah.
Which is now, we used to joke about that, but now that's probably closer than not.
As we've sort of implied, today we're exploring the Gamera series. We're going to talk about 2 movies from Godzilla's cousin on the half shell. 1969's Gamera vs. Guiron and 1995's Gamera, Guardian of the Universe. So, Sam and Joanna, had you even heard of Gamera before this?
Never. And as I was searching for it while Fiona and I were trying to watch it, I kept putting in the wrong name because I just couldn't place it or remember it correctly in my head.
Yeah, I had no idea when in our schedule doc, it said we're watching, well, first off, 2 movies, which was already a red flag to me. I was like, oh, 2 this
Yes.
week, double work. And then second, I was like, Gamera versus Guiron is just like letter soup.
Yes.
That's just nonsense. And then, searching on Amazon Prime for the movie, I'm 1 letter away, and it's like, do you mean Gamer with Gerard Butler? And I'm like, no.
That's what, yep, same.
But now I not only know who Gamera is, but I am fond of him.
Aww.
He is a lovable little scamp. Well, I don't know as much about him as I do Godzilla, but then again, there's not as much behind him. Basically, 1964 was a blockbuster year for Toho monster movies. You had Mothra vs. Godzilla, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, Dogora the Space Monster. It was money all over. So just about every studio in Japan was like, well, I guess we have to do this too. So in 1965-66, they were all coming out. We had Nikatsu putting out Gappa, the Triphibian monster. Shachiku had Gilala, the X from outer space. And Dai, or Dai rather, had the most successful and derivative of them all, Gamera the Invincible.
Yay.
Yes.
Wait, so that was the first one, or this one, the one we watched, was the first one?
No, we didn't watch the very first Gamera.
Okay, cool. I didn't know if they were just like, if the plot point was just like, he is the savior of children, and we were just like, yes, we're accepting it, and we're moving along, but this makes more sense. I kind of loved it. I loved that they were like, listen, he's the savior of children, shut up, nothing more about it. That's it.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump us in to like the purest Gamera experience, because they followed a almost comically rip-off of Godzilla trajectory. So the first one, even though it was 1965 in Japan and color stock was cheap, they still filmed it in black and white, and it was like a more serious movie where he was the villain. And then in the next one, it was on color, and he fought another monster that hatched from a mysterious egg found on an island, and Gamera made a hero turn. So they were really biting the Godzilla cake. But finally, he found his niche. He became the friend to all children, battling monster after monster in his traditional cartoony fashion. And Gamera vs. Guiron was sort of like the midpoint of the series, like one of the more popular ones.
Got it.
And so, these movies weren't getting good reviews. They weren't original. But because they were so cheap and like so perfect for the children of 1960s Japan, they made tons of money, and actually forced Godzilla to copy some of the hallmarks of the series. So like the reason we started seeing all the little kid characters showing up in Godzilla was because of Gamera. The reason we started seeing like gore, like Godzilla bleeding, was because of Gamera. They were just chasing that high that was bringing in the little boy crowd.
Wow, well, any friend of children is a friend of mine, So.
And Gamera, so he kind of was like a trendsetter, it sounds like.
Yeah, he was Godzilla's little cousin, but he sort of like forced Godzilla to play catch up with him at the box office.
Wow, you go, Gamera.
I love an underdog story.
He's like, you could say he's like the Kobe Bryant of kaiju, where it's like he's just trying to imitate Michael Jordan or Godzilla, right. And then suddenly he became his own thing, and everyone wants to imitate him. And he's not going to tell anyone that he's just doing an impression. He has his own personality.
Exactly. And just to briefly touch on the origins of the other movie, Daiei ended up going bankrupt, which cut the original Gamera series short. Not Gamera's fault. They were losing money on other stuff. But in the 90s, the company made a revival, and the director Shishuke Kaneko pitched them with the idea of bringing Gamera back. So they did a trilogy of 90s movies that ended up being pretty well regarded. Unfortunately, they seem to have an ongoing problem with money. So they went bankrupt again, and so everybody's been begging for Gamera versus Godzilla, but his rights are lost in the ether.
Okay.
So there haven't been any Gamera movies.
Now that I would watch.
The whole time, I also kept starting to search by searching Gamera versus Godzilla, and then I'd be like, no, that's not a thing. That's not what we're watching. But I just was convinced that was like the second movie we'd be watching. But also then that becomes problematic, because then like, who's the bad guy? You know, then I think right. Godzilla has to be the bad.
Can I ask a dumb question? Is Godzilla not a bad guy?
It's not a dumb question.
Sometimes he's a bad guy.
Oh, really?
Sometimes he's not.
I'm confused every movie. I never come away with a clear answer. So, really? And it switches partway through. Yeah.
He's got like a Severus Snape thing going on.
Yeah.
See, I don't like when people run hot and cold, so I don't know that Godzilla and I are going to get along.
You prefer the dedicated loyalty and heroism of Gamera.
Yes,
yeah.
I feel a kinship with Gamera, and I feel that I will never stray.
Yeah.
Well, shall we dive into this double feature with the synopsis of Gamera versus Guiron?
Yes, let's frickin' go.
Here we go. Sound effects at the ready.
I was thinking about the Teletubby music that's in the background of this whole movie.
This movie has such PBS vibes. It's unbelievable.
Yes, I love it.
It's too much blood for PBS, guys.
It was a brief time in the early 70s PBS run when there were no rules. The Wild West of PBS.
All right. While looking through their telescope, young boys Akio and Tom spot a flying saucer landing in the woods nearby. The next morning, they go to check it out with Akio's little sister Tomoko, encountering goofy police officer Kondo on the way.
If you're naughty again, I'll shave your heads.
Thank you. The boys enter the ship, and it takes off soon after, leaving Tomoko behind. She tries to convince her mother and other adults that the boys are in trouble, but finds only sympathy from Kondo.
Aww.
Meanwhile, Akio and Tom enter an asteroid belt, and the ship is only saved by the arrival of Gamera.
Whoa! Watch out!
He protects the boys and seemingly tries to warn them of some danger, but the ship picks up speed and leaves Gamera behind. Akio and Tom land on a desolate planet in the middle of an alien city. There, they discover advanced technologies, and an underground chamber containing knife-headed monster Guiron. Guiron fights off an invading space Gaius before returning to its lair.
Ha ha ha.
He does have the laugh.
Yeah, he has a creepy fucking laugh.
The boys continue to explore the city and soon encounter alien women Barbella and Florbella.
The names.
They claim that their civilization has almost been destroyed by invading space monsters, and they are the only survivors that simply wish to learn from the boys. However, the women actually want to eat their brains to claim their knowledge.
Raw. Eat them raw.
Gamera finally arrives to save Tom and Akio, and the alien women send Guiron to fight him. The monsters seem evenly matched at first, but Gamera eventually passes out at the bottom of a lake. Tom uses the distraction to free Akio from imprisonment, but accidentally releases Guiron as well. Out of control, the knife-headed beast attacks its mistresses and slices their UFO in half as they try to flee Earth.
That was a great shot.
Shing! Guiron then turns its attention to the boys, but Gamera awakens when he hears their cries of fear. Gamera subdues Guiron, and then Tom and Akio use missile launchers to help him kill Guiron and the surviving Florbella. Gamera welds the UFO back together with his fiery breath, and then flies the boys back home to a cheering crowd of onlookers.
Gamera!
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 So, Joanna, do you want to start, since I know you were enchanted with these two small boys?
Yes, I mean, and also I have to point out that I don't know if I've ever seen a cuter child in pigtails than their little sister. So I just wanted to highlight her as well. Also, wow, I'm just pulling up 4.2 on IMDb. That's a real.
I mean,
that's a real bummer.
I did take notes because, I didn't want to let Joanna down. My very first note is, love the kids, very cute. So
yeah, exactly.
From the get-go, I was won over.
And what's their it's Akio and Tom, and then what's their sister's name?
Tomoko.
Okay. Yeah, well, first of all, why does Tom look like a young little Paul Mescal for any normal people fans out there? The whole freaking time, it was just Paul Mescal as a child acting. I love, they have some great lines, and I love that the boys are just really not that spooked by anything the whole time.
Nope.
Like, maybe a little, but they range a solid 4 to 6 on an emotional level the whole entire time. And so, I thought, that was their take on the characters, and I appreciated that they came at them with an opinion, that they were these smart little boys. Akio knew a shit ton about space. How did he learn about M50 speed or whatever he was calling it?
Mach 33. I think he said.
Like, what? How old is he? 7?
Well,
what is going on here?
And they didn't question any of these things. They were like, a spaceship has landed, of course, naturally.
Right. They're
Now
like,
we will
oh
board
no.
it and effortlessly know how to operate this large piece of machinery. Like, how old are they supposed to be? Like 7? Like, I don't think I could barely tie my shoelaces, but they know how to operate spaceships. I mean, very impressive.
Well, these spaceships are very user-friendly.
Yeah, they knew too. They were like, oh, but we can breathe on this spaceship. So cool. Like gravity, like they knew kind of enough to really, maybe that's why they weren't scared, because they have their knowledge from their first grade science book to keep them going.
It felt effortless, right? Like they belonged there.
I noted that they were so unimpressed by everything except 2 things. They were scared when Guiron was like 2 feet away from their face.
Right. That was a great shot.
And they were scared when they stepped on a moving walkway.
Yes, they were.
Oh my God, the moving walkway. They were like nothing else fazed them. They were like, they're going to eat our brains as carpaccio or as beef, whatever, like beef carpaccio, but like the moving walkway was the stunning
Who
moment.
hopped on it first? Who was the one that
Tom.
got
He was like, help, Akio, I'm scared. As this walkway was moving like
and Akio was like, jump off.
Now.
But then them holding hands as they were going down it was so freaking cute. And I think Fiona and I, for a big hit, was also their outfits.
Oh my gosh.
They were looking incredible.
I mean, I have a note that, like, yes, it's true that, we always talk about how people used to dress better, back in the day, but impeccable outfits from both of the boys. I mean, I have a note that says, I feel like I'm watching the Zara spring collection. Like, it was just beautiful little outfits. I mean, a fur-trimmed bomber jacket? Are you kidding me?
I was ready to see Tom Cruise sporting that in the next Top Gun. It felt like the perfect outfit for him. And then one other call out I just want to highlight from the sister is when they're getting on the ship and they're I don't know what the boys were saying, but the sister goes, "You think they'll understand Japanese? You're the dumb ones." I just thought that was a great little remark, call out at her older brothers making fun of her.
I know. I felt so bad for her. Like, everyone was saying, like, you're dumb, you lie all the time, like, not giving her the time of day.
She did not give up, though. She was a true heroine as well, because she was really trying to get the message out. Oh, and also, Mother will be so mad you flew off in a spaceship. They're like flying away.
Speaking of great outfits, what did you think of Barbella and Florbella?
A+.
I mean, I'm going as them for Halloween. Yeah.
If I could, I would.
Yeah, definitely Halloween 2023. Look out. That'll be Joanna and I.
On the subject of Halloween costumes, and specifically ones that are now very dated pop culture references, the moment Guiron showed up, I just immediately thought of Left Shark. This is the most Left Shark vibes I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He was total early days Left Shark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's mainly knife, but a little bit of shark in there for sure.
Okay, what did you guys think of the children though? What were some of your kiddo highlights?
Since for me, this is my first time watching any of these movies, to me, this is all brand new. I am seeing this for the first time. So to me, it is truly a unique experience, unlike for the rest of you.
Oh, no, to be fair, I don't think we've seen anything quite like this first Gamera that we watched.
Yeah.
I think Gamera, this was different. Yeah, this was its own thing.
I think of this one, Gamera versus Guiron, as like what people probably think of in their heads when I say I'm watching a Japanese monster movie from the 60s. Like, they see like this kind of stuff in their head. I could be wrong, but it just has that pure, like, goofy essence. Like,
yeah,
it doesn't hold back in the least bit, and I like it for that. And the boys, even, I mean, they're obviously terrible actors, but I love their, like, naivete. At least they're not, like, clearly, like, pretending. Like, it's just them. They're just in this movie, and it's very funny for that. Everything is just their off-the-cuff reaction.
I would argue, maybe the boys knew what kind of movie they were in, and they knew that vibe would just suit the comedy well. They had a connection.
There's no way Tom was thinking that far ahead. I mean, that kid was a wooden board of an actor, and it's harsh to say that about like a 6-year-old, but like he had no future in this. That's the harshest I've ever seen. He was not very good though.
He also got worse weirdly once he gave his hat away. Like, I feel like he was like really relying on the cute little like cap to like to give him that star quality. And then the second they switched and he gave his hat away, I was like, oh. Also, the poor little boy who got shaved. I mean, they must have really shaved his head.
I'm just realizing now the connection between that little foreshadowing of that precious little neighborhood police officer, I guess, being like, "I'll shave your heads."
Oh,
well, that was the setup.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's how you write movies, ladies and gentlemen.
They must have had to get that shaving all in one. They only had one shot at that. They had to get it right.
Right. This was like E.T. They shot it in sequence for the benefit of the children.
Yeah,
exactly.
And yeah, even at the end, Officer Kondo is like, you've shaved your head in penance, I see.
Which was very funny. Yeah, I love that guy. Yeah, we joke about that being quintessential screenwriting, but like it's not a great movie, but it avoided some obvious traps that I feel like other movies would have fallen into. The one being that nothing ever pays off and it's just a bunch of stuff, where at least this, like, it somewhat set its own rules of like what it was. And the shaving the head thing was one of them. The little suction dart gun, like whooshing that guy's shirt away at the beginning.
Oh, so fun.
That was hysterical. That was like when I realized that this movie was for me. But also like, how many movies now? If this was most like even children's sci-fi movies now, like how bogged down will we have gotten into like actually why they can breathe in the ship and why, like, the mechanics of how it's like, who cares? Like, just have the kids just be confident in it and say it, and they get it because they're imaginative little kids. Like, it was so like buoyant. We just got there, and it was all fun, and it was no, like, frankly, I think even the Godzilla movies may have gotten a little more bogged down in some of that stuff. Like, this just moved.
Well, and I think, I mean, what we're, like, even when we were watching Clifford a few months ago, like, that's a kid's movie. It's bogged down by so much shit going on. And it's nice to have a kid's movie that's just like, da 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 da, and like Teletubby music and simple.
It knows to, like the stuff that, this is something I've been feeling for a while, but it's like the stuff that as a kid is exciting to see is stuff like people threatening to eat your brains. And like shaving your head, if you're a kid, the concept of someone shaving your head is like the scariest thought.
It is.
Like, you know, when my brother got gum stuck in his head because his hair because I put it there, like he like had to get his head shaved, and he was like a little blonde kid with like a 1/4-inch long buzz cut. And, like, it was the most traumatizing thing for him, like, ever. And I was like, yeah, no, this is, like, if I were a child watching this, I would be like, this is scary. And also, all the blood. The blood was great. Like, it was like, it just knew it. It just knew what are, like, exciting things to see. Like, what you want to see, what'll entertain you. It seemed, like, very in tune with what, even if it wasn't how to make a great movie, with, like, what are just things that are entertaining to have happen.
And they know that, like, donuts are comforting.
I
like,
was just about to say the thrill of him being like, I want my mother's donuts. And then her being like, here, your mother's donuts. Like, it reminded me of, like, in Spy Kids, like, I, as a child, had, like, a fascination with how they, like, put those packets in that, like, microwave-esque machine, and then, like, McDonald's would appear, and I always was like, how do I get one of those machines?
So side
that
note,
was the vibe
that's
I
what
got.
I was thinking of. When I said, like, it just knows what entertains kids, I was picturing Spy Kids in my head. I was like, that's just a movie that gets it.
I love,
totally.
oh my God, so good.
There are kaiju in the second one. We could watch the second one.
There are.
Yes. I went to those midnight premieres. Yeah, and it was very like, like a futuristic take on Hansel and Gretel and throwing a big turtle monster. That's kind of what was going on.
Yes.
Yeah, honestly, Hansel and Gretel, perfect comparison. And going back to the witch/aliens, this is legitimately embarrassing to admit, but you know that introduction where they're like in the dark and you see the glowing eyes and there's like the alien language. I saw this movie when I was like 9 or 10 years old.
It was scary, wasn't it?
And yeah, I was at that age, I was scared of that. I was like, okay, I feel uncomfortable. Like, not even for that scene. Like, after the movie ended and I went to bed, I was like bothered by that scene. I was such a baby.
No, they were doing crafty kid filmmaking. They knew what would get you.
They were manipulating you.
Yeah. I think the best part about them was about 90% of the time when they would transport themselves, when they would land, they had that great little pose with their leg popped and their hand on their thigh.
I had the alien women also being eugenicists was like a nice subtext. Like, oh, that's why there's no more of them. It wasn't the space monsters. They've all just been killing each other for being imperfect.
Oh, yeah. That was crazy.
I kind of missed that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, remember when she goes, we kill our members that aren't perfect, or we...
Oh, when you mean when
useless.
one of them is like dying and she says, we kill useless members? Yeah.
Useless.
Yeah.
That's a really strong word.
This movie rocks, man.
Yeah.
It was the best movie.
So good. I also do want to call out Akio when he passed out from the milk, which again, how precious and simple. He's just drinking a lot of drugged up milk, just chugging the drugged
I mean, honestly, if I chugged a glass of cow's milk, I too would pass out. So
his passing out was so good. I thought he really nailed it. I was like, good for you.
And the way he had to, when she froze him, and you could see he was like trying so hard to stay still, but you could see like his eyebrow quivering. Bless his heart. You know, he practiced that one like multiple times at home with his mom.
I want to talk about the monsters because they're
course.
so charismatic. So Gamera, of course, like everything he does in this movie makes me laugh. Like even when it's not specifically funny. Like near the beginning, when he was just like right up in the window of the UFO just screaming, like I just started laughing for some reason. There's just something inherently joyful about Gamera.
He's goofy. Look, he's a giant turtle with big ass
tusks.
I mean, yeah. Name a more like comedic sight than a giant paper mache turtle propelled by gas blasting through the universe.
The jet engine legs is
The
like
jet
the
engine.
funniest. I love that. It feels like a non sequitur. Like it feels like that's just so not a giant monster thing that he's like part spaceship, and I fucking love it.
Yeah.
The moment he showed up again, how quickly I was like, oh, this is the movie I've been waiting for. Like that it was like within 15 minutes of the movie. I was like, this is it. This is the one. I can feel it, and it never let up. It was just it kept surprising.
Yeah, I think too the little shell, like something
shell.
about that is so comedic to have to get into his little propelling blast. I don't know. It's all so good.
And also just the fact that like a turtle, like its shape is like probably the least aerodynamic shape, right? It's
Oh,
like a
totally.
circle with then like the little arms and legs sort of like flailing off. So watching that propelled, I mean, it defies all logic, which is what makes it so good.
Yeah. And I like how he has two modes. He has a Superman mode where he pulls in only his legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he has like the UFO mode where he like twirls around and he's
Oh God, loved that.
And I feel like he's not cute in any way. And I feel like with the other Godzilla kid movies, again, even if we may find Minya terrifying, you know, we know young Ryan at least found her to be adorable, but like he's not cute. But again, they just say, oh, he's protector of children, and you're like, I get it. Like he is scary looking, but we're not going to be scared by him because that's just not his vibe.
But I mean, some of the specific things he did really, really had me delighted. Like when his cheeks got cut and he put the snow on it. It was adorable.
Oh my
Yeah,
God,
that was so cute.
that was a highlight for sure.
When he was deflecting the shuriken with the stalactite, like a
my
ninja
God, the
sword.
shuriken. What was like just like physically them just launching, like being just sort of beside his face and launching in any direction is so funny. Like like you know what I mean? Like it just doesn't. Oh man.
It's delightful. And my final favorite Gamera thing was, of course, when he did the gymnastics routine.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
the
Oh
gymnastics.
my God.
Let's talk about surprise and delight. I mean, I was brought to my knees. Like that was incredible.
That is too when the movie jumped up to a next level of like, okay, they know
Yeah.
what they're doing. Because he's spinning, and you're like, okay. Oh, it's funny, it's gymnastic. And then he keeps going, and you're like, oh, it's really okay. And then he lands it and nods. And you're like, wow, okay.
No.
That was
are
also where
having
I
a
feel
ball.
like the movie, yeah, it got self-aware. It's like, we know what we're doing here. Like, we know that there is something inherently amazing and funny about a giant turtle doing a gymnastics routine and then sticking the landing.
Well, and that too, I think there was a moment where I turned to Fiona. I was like, okay, Fiona, yes, no. Like, you know, agent calls up. Like, these are the parts we get to play for our first major role. Do we do it? The Barbarella and Florbella, and we're like, absolutely.
I mean, is that even a question?
Yes, we get in those spacesuits. We put our little things on our necks to speak Japanese, and we blast off to set.
I have one other thing I'd like to say about Gamera that I enjoyed is that like the scale was so off. So like in each scene, he either appeared to be like the size of like a cruise ship, and then in other scenes he appeared to be like the size of a thimble. Like it was so inconsistent. I was like, wait, how big? I can't get a judge of how big he is because it was very confusing for me. That's my one critique.
That's the
Yeah.
one.
That's the one.
Everything else was perfect. I wouldn't change a thing.
Well, let's. Sam mentioned this already, but let's talk about Guiron too.
Oh my God, that was that. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. That first fight scene between the Gios and Guiron was like had me like rolling on the floor with laughter. Like, and not even in like not in like a I'm making fun of it way. Although, oh my God, it was like the Black Knight fight from Monty Python. Like just limbs just kind of flopping off, and I mean it was.
Heads rolling.
Oh my God, the head just whoop just like taken off. It was the best. I'm not going to say it's one of the best monster fights we've seen in terms of execution, but it is my favorite monster fight we've seen in terms of how edge of my seat I was the whole time.
I think it's about sticking the landing, too. When he is chopping him up into little tuna steaks, little, like, purple tuna steaks.
I loved that.
And going, ha, 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 ha.
Yep.
Like, it's terrifying.
And there was something so... Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I should say there's something so satisfying about the ease with which he was chopping him up. You know, it was like a warm knife through butter.
I also, too, Sam, having watched 2 James Bond movies now in my storied past, the water flowing backwards and the underground layer opening up, I thought was very satisfying and cool. What did you think about that? It felt James Bond-esque to me of what I know limited of the series.
Well, what's crazy is it's actually there's almost literally that in a different James Bond movie. Like there's one where where it's like the layer is in a kind of like a shell like ceiling that opens up, or like a hidden floor underneath water in a volcano. So like you literally get one that's almost exactly like that. But I mean, just the water flowing backwards thing, like again, is silly. I can't tell you why that we needed that, but I'm just here for it because it was just like another thing where I'm just like, what? Like, it's just constantly more things that are just like charmingly kind of inventive, but also totally bizarre and unexplainable.
But they fit the world, like similar to how they had like teleporters fucking everywhere. Like you could just hop on in those every 5 feet.
Oh yeah, you do, only to travel a few meters. I mean, it's not like they were covering great distances. It was like, why walk to the kitchen when I can teleport there?
Well, and if you have an even shorter distance than that, you can just take the moving floor.
That's right.
That is a very lazy group of aliens, I would say. Very satiated.
You really tire yourself out killing all of your fellow aliens, and you just
right.
I mean, what are you going to do except teleport yourself?
But it pays off so well in the end, too, when they're, like, chasing little boys, and then suddenly the little boys are only 2 feet away from Guiron. Like, it all pays off having those, little games to play with it.
The bit where they teleport and then try to, like, break the teleporter so that the aliens can't get them, and they're like, we just went around the whole way, like, full circle, and now we're here again. I'm not even entirely sure. Someone will have to explain that to me, but I also was charmed by it.
Yeah, I agree. And again, those boys fucking smart. They didn't have any questions about how to use the teleporter. They just arrived and they were pressing the buttons and using it.
Like,
Well, it was very user friendly. It was sort of like, like an iPhone situation. It's supposed to be intuitive.
The whole set felt like a Dave & Buster's kind of, which I really loved. Like
it was basically like big green button, big red button, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I also liked how they tried to trap the alien women by breaking off the controls and smashing them with rocks.
That's what I was referring to. It didn't work.
Didn't work.
When we first arrived on the planet, I watched this with Mac, who also loved it. And she just goes, this whole planet is like a McDonald's play place. And I was like, you're right.
Yeah. We watched it with Charlotte. Charlotte came over too. And she's like, wow, I might just have to stick it out for the second one, see where this universe blasts off to.
To briefly jump back to the Gaios Guiron fight.
Yeah.
That was actually considered too gruesome when they put it on American TV. That in that fight, it only had his leg getting cut off, and then they let him fly away. So
that's a fucking ripoff.
Even though he's like only full of purple pudding, it's not very gory at all, except on like a surface level. Yeah, they cut out the wing chop, the head chop, all that. So they didn't get this. American kids didn't get to see Space Gaios get turned into purple sashimi.
Well,
and
he's
that's
way
why
less. You go.
That's why our American kids are so messed up.
Exactly. And he's way less spooky without his little laugh.
Yeah.
I think too, just in general, again, going back to them just like keeping it simple for this movie, just like a have we seen him before? Was this the first time we were introduced to Guiron?
Yeah, this is the only Guiron movie.
Just a shark-headed thing is terrifying. As a kid, sharks are scary. Okay, put a little shark head, give him a little half knifey knife, have him karate chop shit. It's very simple and effective.
Yep. He's intimidating. Despite how sleepy he looks with the half-lidded eye.
Oh my god, I was gonna say, did he like eat a brownie before? Like he did sort of look like he was about to doze off the whole movie. Like I could only be so scared because I think he was a narcoleptic shark boy.
That's why he was always going back in that chamber.
Yeah, he's like, I gotta take a nap between fights.
Yeah. Two things I loved with Guiron is, again, not on the surface funny, but very funny to me when he first attacked Gamera, and there was like the repetitive thing where he would chop down on the shell and Gamera's neck would shoot out and then it would come back in. Like clung, clung. It was great.
Yeah, they were underwater for a bit too for their fight, right?
They were, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I thought I loved the underwater parts.
Yeah, well, that was another
such
part
a
that I was
cool-
like, kids love underwater stuff, you know, like the thrill of seeing them fight underwater. Oh, so good.
like whatever movie I was pitching to Mac for my Godzilla James Bond Ben Stiller directed project, like I was seeing a lot of that in this movie, and I was excited about it.
I wish I had come up with anything as good as this for my pitch.
And then the last
Also-
bit is his death, which is very funny.
My god.
The
Oh my
rocket
god.
exploding inside his little shuriken crevice and blowing him to bits.
No, but how about that weird bit too where they're kind of connected and flying? It had a little sexual, I don't know, it was odd looking for sure, and it just
it
kept
was like
going.
Woody and Buzz flying in Toy Story
Yeah.
for a moment. It's the best. I don't even have anything more to say about it specifically, except I just keep remembering these things and having a big smile on my face.
That was kind of me too. When I was writing these notes, I'm like, what structure am I going to have for this? Because all I could just say is like, that was great. That was great.
And the little boys in the background cheering along the whole time was some great added elements as well. I feel like usually, you know, like in the second movie, they're watching everything and they're really nervous and scared. But it was fun to just have these little boys like they were eating popcorn watching a movie, cheering along the whole time.
And I'm glad they got to help Gamera. They helped him out with that missile. So, you know.
Because they're smart little boys. And then the second alien, Barbarella was the second one, right? Mm-hmm. She had a very graceful death. Whatever, again, her...
Oh, she just went...
like... She looked like a ballerina. Yeah, she so gracefully fell down and died.
But I like that when she had died, so she kept her leg in sort of like a knee pop position. It was like she
Yes.
wanted to like be dead at a flattering angle, you know? So her knee was sort of like poised, which I enjoyed. I was like, the vanity of actors spans decades.
You did just remind me. I love how when Guiron slices the goddamn UFO in half, what we see in the close-up is like a minor debris tumble. It's not like they're getting sucked out and like falling through the air, or like even like they're not even sliced. It's not like there's like sparks everywhere. Like a stack of boxes falls over on Florbell after it gets cut in.
Actually, I wanted to ask, because you guys usually have much more knowledge and basis for this than me. How did you two feel overall about the effects and the usage of, you know, real special effects in this film?
Well, they're not convincing in the way where you believe that they're real, but I don't know. I mean, and they feel even cheaper than the Godzilla movies that are already fairly cheap. That was my takeaway. But it's so hard to find a way to put this. They're not convincing in the way that I believe that they're real, but they are weirdly kind of imaginative and sort of like just inherently entertaining. Like they're just like inherently, I'm so delighted by that thing happening the way it did that I can't be mad about it either, nor does it need to be realistic. So no, if I were just like, is this winning an Oscar for Best Visual Effects in 1969? I would probably say it's not getting nominated. But I was so like, I was like on the edge of my seat, just waiting for some new kind of like crazy thing to happen that would just entertain me, and it kept doing it.
Yeah, it seemed like it'd be a fun team to be a part of.
Oh,
And
my
the green screen moments were just always so good, or whatever. The
I
backdrops.
was impressed. I mean, maybe I don't know what kind of stuff they were up to in the 60s, but I thought that this was pretty solid. I mean, I'm like, I couldn't do better, you know? The art department did a beautiful job.
I agree.
I mean, yeah, I've talked many times before about how people have a hard time understanding that the special effects for these Japanese movies were not always going for realistic. They would keep something in if they thought it was interesting or beautiful or funny. And, obviously, to a large extent, that wasn't their choice, because these were made on extremely cheap budgets, like shoestrings. But it doesn't really matter for this type of movie. So the fact that it is, as Sam said, just so interesting and weird and like tonally consistent, it completely works in the world that it creates. And yeah, the guy who directed almost all these movies and helped conceive Gamera, Noriaki Yuasa, was apparently like a very sweet man who just wanted to make movies that kids would love. And
Oh my gosh.
I love his quote when people asked him who would win in a fight in Godzilla versus Gamera. He would always say, well, Godzilla is Gamera's sensei, so they would never fight. It's not possible. Right. But if they did, Gamera would win.
No, I mean, yeah, also, again, just to give a shout out, because we've touched on him a bit, but Officer Khan, what a great kooky character. I was like, Fiona, actually, this is the part that I would want to play if I was in the movie. The glasses, I mean, again, very similar to the toy maker neighbor, because it seems like little boys with cute little sock outfits always need to have a kooky neighborhood pal adult around.
Yeah.
But also just how he... even when the moms were like, don't listen to the little girl, and he kept being like, okay, I hear you, we'll go to the... It was so cute. Like, Fiona, it reminded me, our friend is a preschool teacher and has like done a lot of studies on, kind of working with kids and the best way to help them in growing up. And it just was very precious to see and kind of reminded me of that. And he was so kooky.
Did they make, like...
This is some... Oh, go. I was going to say, like, this is something, too, on the subject of that neighbor character and all of the human characters in this movie, is they're not deep. But if I'm comparing them to a lot of the characters in a lot of the Godzilla movies, they are... I feel like they're a step more fleshed out in that there's like, even with him, I feel like he's a guy who kind of like is threatening these kids, and he's kind of a grumpy neighbor, but he's also, you can tell he cares about them, and he acts on it, in ways where I go, oh, interesting. Like he's acting on it in a non-obvious way beyond like, I'm the neighbor and I'm going to help you because I care about you secretly. Like there are a few layers where I'm watching non-deep characters still behave like people, which is a distinction I want to make. But I felt that with the moms as well. Tom's mom was... There was a darkness there I can't quite get into.
Scary.
I mean, can we talk about the 30 lashings?
Oh, certainly that, yeah.
30? I mean, for God's sakes, the poor little boy will have no behind left by the end of that.
Also, there was... Am I crazy? Did anyone else catch this? I swear to God, the little pigtailed amazing sister, towards the end of the film, turned to... or maybe it was Akio who said it. Someone said to him, there are space people like you too, and they had a little look, and I was like, is he an alien?
Oh, yeah, there was a nod to the policeman being an alien, for sure.
And I would also believe that aliens and kids would have a better connection, understanding that adults might not catch on to.
I love this theory. Now we do have to...
Yeah, we have to wrap it up.
We have to go on to the judgments here.
Wait, can I say one more final quick line?
All right, last thing.
I loved the thesis of the film.
Oh,
And I loved that Akio so proudly, like, basically turned to camera and said, "We shouldn't long for other planets, but make Earth a place free of wars and traffic accidents." I just loved that. And then Gamera fucking just whizzed away into space. I thought it was an amazing ending.
I long for a world where traffic accidents are like the number 2 concern.
There's a little truth to that, though. Not to get full history lesson, but basically in the 60s, the way cars were made, car crashes were bad. Like that was like a really good way to die. And car manufacturers really until probably the early 70s were almost deliberately not making their cars safer. So that's just yeah.
Sam, see, this is why I do the pod. I learn these little tidbits. This is why we listen.
And on top of that, this is even darker. But the reason why all the little kids in these movies wear these brightly colored caps is in Japan there was a huge problem in the 60s because all the little kids had to walk home from school by themselves. They kept
That was a
getting
different
hit.
problem.
And so
Getting hit by cars?
yeah, so they came up with this program to put the brightly colored caps on the little kids so they would be more visible. So
Whoa.
Oh my
he's like
God.
legitimately concerned for his life. This little
Okay.
So
kid.
traffic accidents were like a real reason for them to be
Wow,
scared.
here I was thinking
Yeah.
it was a funny line. This just took a way darker turn, but even more props to him for standing up for the safety of vehicles
Yep.
and children. Yeah, and we shouldn't long for other planets as space, as moon landings and all that is taken off. I loved it. Good.
You
for
hear
the
that,
character.
Elon?
Yeah, you hear that, Elon?
We got everything we need right here. Mom's donuts on Earth are good enough.
Elon, or should I say secretly Florbella.
Yeah.
I believe he eats children's brains. All right, so the judgments. As Godzillavangelists, it is our holy duty to assign each movie its proper place in heaven, hell, or purgatory. Heaven being the best, hell being the worst, purgatory being in the middle. I'll kick this off this time. I feel like it's been a while since I went first. Obviously, from the perspective of a jaded adult who doesn't have that much imagination, this movie would be bad. But fortunately, that's not who I am. That's not what this movie's about. It's lovely. It somehow is still like a little too long for me, but not by much. It's full of pretty fun stuff, and it's just a goofy joy to watch. So I feel like I gotta put it in Gamera heaven.
Yeah, I can follow that up. Yeah, I feel like I agree. It was like very slow. Like nothing really happened, but everything happened. And Fiona and I were like, is this how movies just were back then because of the tech? Like very slowly plodding along. But obviously I enjoyed it. I would definitely, I feel like I will definitely show this to my one day will exist 10 years down the road, maybe children. And if it was thrown on again in my adult life, I probably wouldn't mind it too much. Also, I love an hour and 20-minute movie. I just love it. I think, they're great. So I was considering, I was like, how does it compare to Destroy All Monsters? All Monsters Attack. That's still probably maybe even one level higher for me. I'll have to maybe rewatch them and compare. But yeah, Purgatory doesn't feel right for it. So I'd say Heaven as well.
Yeah. All Monsters Attack, definitely the better movie. But
Yeah.
with that
I would
said,
disagree.
all
This
right.
goes
Well,
over-
if you're gonna
yeah.
disagree, go in. Sam.
Okay, so Ryan, you've called me out for going on a rant a couple times before each one of these '90s Godzillas we've talked about, where I've kind of said like some of these start out kind of janky, and I have hopes that they'll be like just janky but like crazy and full of ideas and just like fun bad movies. Mm-hmm. But not, when I say bad, I mean like poorly made, but have they rest on their own sort of like fun, crazy entertainment. And this is the movie I've been waiting for. I kept calling out each one of these. I was like, yeah, it was badly made, but it wasn't full of life and crazy and constantly like weirdly entertaining. This is it. This is the one I've been waiting for. It's the best of that. It's better than any of the Godzilla movies that I would put in that camp. I like it more than any of the like any of the like so bad it's good Godzillas. This blows them all out of the water, and it's not even close. Like it's the movie I've been waiting for. Absolute guaranteed heaven. Not even a question. It's not even close. Like that's. I felt so strongly. I really enjoyed this.
Wow, Fiona, take us home.
I mean, I feel like it's all been said. It was a joy, you know. We'll for sure be sitting the hypothetical future children down to watch this. I mean, can you think of anything more delightful than a giant paper mache turtle flying through space? I can't think of anything better than that. And donuts that appear out of thin air.
I mean, amazing.
Nothing could be better. Yeah, I think it was delightful. It's my first, so I'm glad I'm starting on a high note. Heaven.
Yeah.
Wow, all
right.
four lines. That doesn't happen often.
Clean
No.
sweep.
Sweep.
You gotta use the effect, Dylan.
Yeah. Woo! Gamera. Perfect.
All right, moving on to the synopsis for Gamera, Guardian of the Universe.
All right. Shake off the kiddie film.
All right. A nuclear ship is nearly capsized by a strange floating atoll, leading the Japanese government to send a team to study the anomaly. Meanwhile, rumors of large, unusual birds on the Goto archipelago prompt another investigation team to be sent out. Dr. Kusanagi leads the team to the atoll, including Marine Officer Yonemori. When the bird investigation team doesn't come back, Police Inspector Osako asks ornithologist Dr. Nagamine to help him go looking for them. Nagamine finds human remains in giant bird pellets and is subsequently attacked by a giant bird-like creature. Thank you. She pressures Osako into helping her lure it away from other villages, but they soon discover the creature is just one of 3.
Oh no.
Meanwhile, Yonemori and Kusanagi find the atoll covered with strange metal beads and a tablet covered in runes. Soon after excavating the tablet, it collapses, and the entire atoll is revealed to be the shell of a giant turtle monster.
Who's that?
Dr. Kusanagi translates the runes and believes the monster was once known as the protective creature Gamera. Yonemori also gives Kusanagi's teenage daughter Asagi one of the beads. Nagamine agrees to help the government capture the bird-like creatures, which the runes called Gaios.
I don't know if she agrees. More was like pretty forced into that move.
True, yeah, I guess she was like, it's better than just letting them go free.
She was like, let's not. And they were like, we will do it. You will help us.
But yes, her plan to entrap the beasts in the Fukuoka Dome seems to work, until Gamera arrives and attacks the Gaios. Gamera kills one, but the other 2 are able to get away in the chaos. Angry at the destruction Gamera caused, the government prioritizes attacking him. Later, Gamera saves our heroes from a much larger Gaios, convincing them that he is a force of good. The final Gaios escapes, however, and Asagi realizes that her bead has given her a psychic connection to Gamera that forces them to share wounds. She is
That was a good sound effect, Joanna.
yeah, that's Asagi coughing after she just
Yeah.
got...
I was going to say something we've seen before. Psychic connection. But
She is compelled to follow Gamera to Mount Fuji, where he is ambushed by both the military and Gaios. As Gamera is wounded, Asagi mumbles that they must rest and falls into a coma. Unopposed, the last Gaios grows as large as Gamera and rampages through Tokyo. It creates a nest in Tokyo Tower and manages to lay eggs. Dr. Nagamine theorizes that the Gaios are perfect predators and can only be stopped by Gamera. Fortunately, Asagi and Gamera awaken. Insisting she witnessed the battle so her soul can empower Gamera, Asagi joins her father, Nagamine, and Yonomori in a helicopter. They follow Gamera as he destroys the nest and eggs and battles Gaios into space and back. Gaios manages to entrap Gamera in an oil refinery explosion, but Asagi uses her spiritual power to allow Gamera to absorb the energy and kill Gaios once and for all. Gamera returns the favor by healing Asagi's wounds, promising to return if humanity needs him, and then severing his bond with Asagi so she will suffer no more.
And then he heads off into the sea, like the ending of every movie.
Yep, so that is Gamera, Guardian of the Universe.
Ryan, I want to say that was a very good synopsis. You know, there was a lot going on.
There was.
Good work.
That was a tough one, so thank you. I appreciate it. The director, Shishuke Kaneko, is one of my favorites. He's like a big kaiju fan. And we haven't gotten to the one Godzilla movie he did, but it's honestly one of my favorites. But yeah, this was him cutting his teeth on the kaiju genre. So what let's dig into the characters. I love Dr. Nagamine.
I will say probably like the main plot point going, or main point going for this film is that I feel like, you know, we had a lot more female lead, just more female leads than we've seen. We typically see. There were two of them. I was like, this is crazy. There are two female leads? What?
Yeah, I have written down, love seeing women in STEM. So that was my first impression.
To the movie's credit, it's something I said about the last one that I feel applies to this also. Not deep characters, but characters that I feel are fun and interesting and alive. I buy that they are all living and breathing and not just people who say stuff.
I like how Dr. Nagamine is like very like firm. Like if she disagrees with something, she's gonna say it. She's gonna like show how professional she is. She wants to like, save the villagers when the cowardly cop wants to give up on them. All that all that is cool.
She's pretty fearless, and when at one point the like head of the, you know, environment cabinet or whatever, when they're at the baseball stadium and he's like, hope it works, it better work, and she's like, excuse me, you're the one demanding this under these crazy circumstances. I'm doing my best. So I appreciated that moment.
That stood out to me too. That was great.
Yeah.
And I always love a gal in some like hiking clothes and a backpack. Like there was one point they were on the island and the guy was totally unprepared in like a suit, but she was ready to rock. She was ready to be in Jurassic Park or this movie, and I loved it.
Yeah, well, when she was digging through the sludge, like to find the human remains, that was like the exact scene where Laura Dern in Jurassic Park is digging through dinosaur feces. I was like, this. Yes. The parallels are uncanny.
Yeah. I was really hoping she would pull out like a bone, though, like a skull. For some reason, that's what I remembered happening. But no, they just get the pen and the glasses. They didn't. Which makes it all the more surprising when she finds that horrible nest of the baby Gaius that ate each other. Similar
to the other one, surprisingly violent at times, which I was here for. But it didn't pull its punches.
Yeah.
Oh my god, when the dog got ripped off the leash and
I forgot about that.
I mean, I was screaming.
That was awesome.
That was so sad. That was a really dark moment.
But also like weirdly thrilling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or am I just evil?
No, I'm with you on that. My wife might disagree though. As a dog lover. The helicopter quote unquote fight with Gaius is great. I feel like, I mean, I'm showing my hand, but Kaneko is a great director, I think. Like, just like the visuals of this movie, like how the different action scenes are put together is great. Now the scripts, but the direction I'll stand
It's
behind.
funny, Ryan. I thought the script was good, actually, and I also thought I thoroughly agree that the direction is really good. It was, I would say, if of the ones we've seen, I'd say the direction was kind of exceptional. I thought that, like, it's just he knows how to, even the dramatic scenes, he knows how to stage a dramatic scene, and you get. When, like, the part that, like, stood out to me is, like, although I think this is true of a lot of the movie, is, like, when the train of jocks gets eaten, when Gaius straight up eats a bunch of kids, which, to the script's credit, is a great way of showing that Gamera protects the children, because the moment Gamera's gone, children get fucking eaten, and that's awesome. Like, it's so good. I was very, like, emotionally moved by that. Like, they never sing a song about how he protects the kids, but he protects the kids.
Which was the only missing piece from the film.
You're not
I
wrong.
missed the songs.
But then you cut to the war room, or the command room where they're commanding the military, blah 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 blah, and our two main characters are, like, slumped against the back wall of the room, and we kind of find them, and the camera kind of pushes in on them, like, as they're talking about the next thing. And you get, by the staging, how they feel in relation to all of the military people who that doesn't bother, and they're just saying stuff about what we should do next. And I was like, that's good directing. That's just a step. It's just a step better directing. It's not Spielberg level good directing, but it's a step better than what often I think these movies have been. So I'm a fan as well. I think he's. This had more moments like that stood out to me than any of the others we've watched.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. I didn't even notice that, but you're absolutely right. But jumping back to the characters, I guess this is my issue with the script. Let's dive into Asagi. I wish they did a better job of explaining exactly what the connection with Gamera is. Like,
yeah, I was gonna
yes.
ask, like,
how does she help him?
Right, just because she gets this rock, I feel like there's, like, something we need more.
I think it's just, like, literally the bead, right? Like, that's what connects her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it feels like we need something more about her.
Oh,
Yeah.
you weren't able to suspend your disbelief that it was the bead that was cosmically and spiritually linking her to the giant flying turtle. Is that what you're saying, Joanna? You needed a little more hard science to back it up.
Well, it wasn't even thoroughly consistent either. Like, every time Gamera gets cut, she gets cut, which that's clear. But Gamera also gets dropped about, like, 200 feet at one point and lands in a giant, smoky heap on the ground, and, like, she doesn't just suddenly crumple like a crash test sedan,
right. When he's set on fire, she doesn't get, like, third-degree burns all over her body. It's weird. Like, you're left to kind of, like, guess, like, okay, maybe she, like, helps him survive some of these wounds. Maybe by being nearby she can help, like, coach him, but it's never, like, quite explicit enough what help she's giving that's worth her suffering all this.
I was just saying that's the weakest part of the script.
Yeah,
I would say. I think everything else I thought was very.
Yeah, I think so too.
I loved it. We were just scene after scene after scene after scene. We just get the point of them and we're out. It was just like it was a movie.
It was a movie.
Well, I also liked a lot of the, like, random details they threw in. Like, when they're at the market, they're like, oh, no red snapper today? And they're like, no, because all the fish have left the ocean.
Love that.
I was like, they're acknowledging the supply chain issues. They're giving us sort of a zoomed out, the effects that this is having on the economy. And
I loved that the woman was negotiating. She was like, isn't this red snapper a little pricey? Huh?
she's like, well, we're getting a pinch on the supply chain due to the giant monster floating around in the ocean.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
And then her little kid, like, attacking all the packaged fish.
Oh,
the
I wrote down-
shopkeeper
So
being
good.
so fed up.
I wrote down that was the best part of the movie. That was the most authentic performance. That is a child. Like that's how a child acts, and that's how a child is taken out of the building, still acting that same exact way. They are not the somber kids from the first Gamera film. And then who was the kind of like goofier sidekick of?
Helping Dr. Nakamura.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He appears in all 3 of the Gamera trilogy movies, and he's a funny guy.
I think in general, though, for me, again, Sam is clearly very excited. This was a movie that started, and I was like, okay, once again, a lot of characters. I don't think they were nearly as fleshed out or strong as the first one. I think they were, still a little bland, but...
I think there were just too many characters.
Well, this is nothing compared to a lot of these Godzilla movies.
Oh,
Yeah, I
really?
was gonna say,
But
yeah,
yeah.
I
Wow.
didn't think so. I relative to the Godzilla movies, I felt like this was like a cast of basically 4 main people that we,
Follow
again,
through on.
kind of know. Yeah, like I get it. I mean, I gotta hear you, but this
Mm-hmm.
is, I mean, again, I'm showing my hand, but I thought that this was like doing a Godzilla movie, simple Godzilla movie structure, but
Better.
really well. Yeah, better than most.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I see what you mean. You don't get a lot of their inner life, and they're all relatively humorless.
Or their background. Yeah, that's maybe it. They're like pretty humorless, which is a key
Yeah.
importance factor.
I mean,
But-
to be fair, they are living in unprecedented times.
They
There's
are.
not much
True.
to joke
That's true.
about when your whole civilization is under threat.
Yeah, and they're in STEM. They're not trying to be entertainers.
Yeah, they're
anymore.
scientists.
No
they're
one
very
said
serious.
they're trying to be
They're
comedians.
like plucky young scientists.
Yeah.
Yes, but they also were, as Sam said, believable, and you
Yeah,
saw
they were.
that they had like their own preferences, their different responses to stress. So they had some rounding in that regard.
That's true.
Not deep, but round. Shall we say?
That's how I felt with all the characters in this. Again, these two, based on these 2 Gamera movies, I felt if not characters to be like profound, I did just feel like people were acting in ways that I enjoyed watching them behave, which is like a really weird way to put it, but like similar. An example of it is when the little girl hops in a taxi and is like, drive me to the base of Mount Fuji, and he's like, no, and she's like, please, and she pleads with him and he goes, and you're like, okay, sure. I mean, like, it was good because we just got to see her really want something, and that's solid. And then he drives through the barricade, and immediately I was like, oh, why did he do that? Like, that's so. And then basically there's just a line where he's like, I always wanted to do that, and I'm just like, again, it's just people. That was just an excuse to get him through the barricade, from a writing perspective. But like, it's just people doing things. They're justifying it in just the way that like people are people, and they just do stuff.
Right.
I mean, they do stuff for reasons, and that's a fun reason for him to do it. And I just like, again, it just felt like a little more alive than most. I don't need them to be like quipping around and being fun guys. I just need to like be like, yeah, they're good. All right, yeah, like I buy it. I just felt like there was like life to everything in this.
Do you want to know another big step forward for women in kaiju movies?
Of course.
We have the first female monster actor,
Whoa!
Wow.
Welcome to the party.
Big Mama Gaius. Had a lady in this
Wow.
Wow, that's amazing.
scene. Yeah.
I love that for her.
Which is my transition to Gaius, which
Yep.
I love the ugly rattiness of them. in
Oh,
this
so
movie.
haggard.
The ugliest face. I mean, unbelievable.
And when they're babies, they have like those Cookie Monster eyeballs that are like rolling everywhere all the time. It's
Yep.
so funny but horrifying at the same time. Another great line related to the Gaius is when the environmental minister, who's also great by the way, that slimy minister, he's like, there's so few of them. They're rarer than the Japanese ibis. And then Dr. Nagamine, I think, says the ibis doesn't eat people.
Right. Yeah.
Bringing him back down to earth. Well, I did like also like it's all so like fantastical, and then you have these like really like down to earth like bureaucratic moments, like when the military is like, we absolutely cannot fire a shot. It's against the law. They must fire a shot first.
Right.
And it's like, oh my God, we're really getting stuck in the weeds of bureaucracy here.
Yeah, the difference is that was like a moment. I feel like we get stuck in entire scenes of bureaucracy in some of your Godzilla movies. Like there'll just be a whole scene where we're just talking about plans.
Ooh,
and
Sam, bringing the hate.
I am bringing the hate. This whole time, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to just make this a moment to hate on like your average Godzilla movie, but like watching this, I was like again, this isn't like my favorite movie ever. It's not a perfect movie. It's not even necessarily a great movie. But I was like, boy, I'm really enjoying this. This is a movie that's just fun, and it just gets it, and its own story like stands on its own as like things are internally supported. It's not just like a hodgepodge of stuff thrown together and people talking for inordinate amounts of times about blah 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 blah, you know, like and I was like, I'm really enjoying this. I just don't get why we can't do just do kind of some of this stuff in just your average Godzilla movies. There are good ones, but just like why do we keep falling into the same traps? Like, is it that Godzilla movies like rest on their own laurels too much, and they're like, we have Godzilla, so we don't need our own. Our story can just be a bunch of elements that got pulled out of a hat and glued together.
I mean, I'm not going to dispute this. I think this movie is better than all but the 5 or 6 best Godzilla movies.
Wow.
It's up there in the kaiju canon. I guess I'm revealing what I'm going to say during the judgments, but whatever. Yeah, I really think this is made by a person who really wanted to make this movie. They're not like assigned by the studio, like, here, do you make the next Godzilla movie? So I think that like passion to want to do something with the resources available is what drives a lot of what makes it work.
Yeah.
Sam kind of touched on this, but I like how all the monster scenes introduce new information in some way. Like the first fight with Gamera, that's when we learn he does want to protect humans. In Fukuoka Dome scene, that's when we learn that he hates the Gaios and is like not going to stop at anything to get them. So there's always like, it's always doing something. They're not just fighting or smashing buildings. There's like some way it changes the story, which is pretty cool.
That's true. Yeah, I like that element of it because we sometimes are not fortunate enough to have that.
Yeah.
I do have to say, too, I was a little more, like, you know how there's always the whole, I feel like Sam has brought this up before, that there's like, oh, trap the monster in a hole. Oh, no, it didn't work. What's next? Like, it did totally follow that format of like, but I thought the stadium had unique elements tied to it. And the characters were more invested than just kind of some general military people setting bombs up. So, and the fun massive slabs of meat as well. So I guess I'll just give a shout out to, like, they were totally following the tropes, but they had their own little spin on them, which was nice.
Well, yeah, I mean this was them capturing them for research, and
right.
Based on all the information that they have, they would want to, because they're like a super endangered animal, you know, that's also killing people. But like that thoroughly made sense, and the stadium was a payoff of, well, one, it's just a fun thing that was that's a real thing, yeah. And they were like, wouldn't that be real? Of course, if you're thinking about a giant monster, where would you trap it in real life? You trap it in a domed stadium. It's just like a thing that works on its own legs. It's also a payoff of her discovering that the flashing lights, like, you know, blind and confuse the monsters, which was done not in a way where they're like, it is said that lights will blind and enrage them. But like, she sees it, she gets it, she has a moment, she gets it, we know she gets it. She doesn't say, hey, guess what? It blah 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 blah. You know, like, it's just, we just get it, and then it's paid off in a smart way. And then that goes out of control. And then later we have Gamera get kind of like trapped. I like him being stuck underwater is more of the equivalent of like when monsters get stuck in a volcano until the third act in some of the Godzilla movies.
Right.
But even that is like used in the story, you know, again, like showing what the results of a world where Gamera is not there to protect humans. You know, it's not just we're holding him there so that we can have some stuff happen so that later we can have him fight the thing that everyone wants to see him fight. Like, it was, you know, again, him being revived by the girl whose spirit tuned to him is maybe not the best. That part doesn't hold up as well, but like, again, it just functioned as a movie from start to finish in a way where I was like, oh yeah, this is what movies feel like. This is a movie.
I love that. That's what Sam's main. But so it was a movie.
It was a movie. Yeah.
They did it, and it was a movie.
But that's the thing, is that a lot of the things they put in theaters these days aren't movies.
No. Again, it sounds like me saying this was a movie is somehow like diminishing it, but no, it's frankly that puts it above par in a lot of ways.
Right.
Just by being a movie.
Just for being a movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, once again, it's judgment time. Let's go in reverse order. So, Fiona, kick us off.
Yeah, heaven, hell, or purgatory.
Okay, well, you know, this one was a little more tough. I think maybe because I watched it right after the first one, which was so joyful. And so I feel like it like I also didn't know what to expect. I haven't seen any of these movies. For me, I would say purgatory. It didn't quite, like, I wanted more of like I wanted to know more about the characters, like their inner workings and feelings. Yeah, like I enjoyed it, but I felt like I didn't get enough depth from the characters. Like, I wanted more. I also think that I went into it thinking like, oh, this is 30 years on from the last one. Like, we're gonna have like more of a tie back. Like, I thought it was like supposed to be like, remember when we did this? Now 30 years later. Like, I think that was just something I came up with in my head, and it was never intended to be that. Yeah, like I wanted to see Tom 30 years later. I like he's gone on to like be like an astronomer or something. I don't know. So yeah, maybe that was just like I set myself up for failure. But for me, I think I'm gonna say purgatory. Like, I still enjoyed it, but it didn't have the same like surprise and delight factor that the first one did. So maybe I just should watch stick to kid movies.
Am I next?
Yes, you are.
No, I happen to basically agree with you in that, like, I thought it was pretty good with great parts. Like, I don't think it's not like a movie that I would be like favorite movie ever. However, I'm being forced to watch a million kaiju movies by Ryan, and this was to me so clearly head and shoulders over most of them, that and was like, again, solidly made. I got what it was doing throughout, and I would say heaven for that reason. And I would go so far as to say that if these were Godzilla movies, if these were we just put these in the Godzilla canon, both would be in my personal top 5.
Wow.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Strong words coming from Sam. Holy shit!
I think this isn't The Host. Like, it's not as good as like the best giant monster movie I've seen, but it is like inherently stronger, I think, than it's not as good as the original Godzilla, but there's an argument for it being more solid than any of the others to me. Like, I think it is an argument for number 2, and I don't know that I can say it for sure, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it, and I liked it, and I really enjoyed the other as like a crazy bad one, and so both top 5 for me.
Crazy
Fair
bad.
enough.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't think that's controversial.
Yeah, I might just be a little desensitized now to being like, okay, we're on a boat, and there's the scientists, and there's the government, and we're gonna have a lot of people fighting. And I think for me, I liked the what are they called again? The bird guys. I liked the Gaios in this. I loved their look. I agree with you, Sam, that some of the directing was good, but not good, but was like very good comparatively to some other films. But I think for me, yeah, personally, because I do just lean so much on this preference of kookiness and prefer that. Even when you're saying like, oh, these are in my top 5, I feel like when I think back on the 60s ones of, you know, that one where there's that trio on the island and they're just like goofing around, getting stuff done. That's definitely more my vibe and speed of the ones I prefer. So I think for me, this one falls into purgatory. There wasn't enough there with the directors or the characters to really make me leave and be like, wow, those were fully differentiated than something I've ever seen before. And they can take the gold medal. But I don't think it was hell by any means. So yeah, purgatory for me.
You've all pretty much said it all. This is definitely a flawed movie, but I think it stands out in the kaiju canon as definitely one of the better movies that have been made. And like I said, I love this director. He's maybe my favorite giant monster movie director. And even if we don't get the most depth with the characters, they're not the most fun characters. I like them, and that's a thumbs up as far as these movies are concerned, that they have characters to latch on to. And so yeah, it is sort of, I mean, it's very tropey, but within that context, I think they did a great job. So it's a heaven for me.
I do wonder too, really, Ryan, if you hadn't, tricked us into watching this such joyful 60s kids movie beforehand, if I had just watched it in the context of these other 90s films we'd been watching, if it would stand out more. But I was just so starstruck by Tom and Q's performances that, maybe that definitely is putting bias on it too.
Maybe I should have done it in reverse, so it would be like pulled back the curtains, like this is where this came from.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
You set this second one up to fail. This is fault, really. Is what we're trying to say.
I honestly did.
Gamera.
Yeah. No songs.
No songs. Not a single song.
There was like some sort of closing pop song.
There was, as it was a '90s movie, so it had to.
Oh, and I do want to give a shout out. I loved the ending of him. Felt almost like him sticking that landing from that gymnastics twirl in the first film, of him just nodding to her.
Yeah.
And that was very, very sweet.
It was sweet. It was a sweet goodbye.
Yeah.
I do have a fan message.
What?
Wow.
This is a comment on YouTube from What's Playing Tonight. They said,
love that name.
They said, "Heyo, I've been listening to you guys for a while. I fell off for a bit, but being on the night shift currently is prime time for podcast listening. Ryan is really earnest in his love for the big lizard and gives the podcast a warm feeling. Sam and Joanna bring unique perspectives to the show, and they and they never fail to make me laugh. The guests are all great too. Looking forward to the next episode. I know they're not great, but these 90s Godzilla movies are the ones I grew up watching the most, so I'm probably more forgiving on them. Godzilla vs. Mothra is definitely a heaven for me." That's the episode he commented on. "Thanks for the entertainment."
Aw, yay. Aww. Thank you for the message. And also, hey, if you took a break, we took a big old break too when the pandemic kicked off, so that matches us.
Yeah, if you've survived all 3 of our hiatuses, bless you.
I laughed too, Ryan. I feel like when you said unique perspective, the face you made had a little sarcasm in it.
I think I just wanted to get the stank on it. That's how I read
exactly.
it.
I loved that read. No, but thank you for the note.
Yes,
we always love them.
Thank you. What's playing tonight? Yes, I said at the end of last episode that our next episode was going to be Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, our 5th anniversary show, but we ended up having to shuffle some things around, so that will be our next episode. Unless something else goes wrong, but we'll do it sometime this year.
It's coming at you, summer 2022.
Yes, it'll happen. So look out for that. And we'll have some fun announcements when we do that show as well. So since we started with the Gamera theme, let me go ahead and end with the Gamera theme as done on Mystery Science Theater.
Ooh, I love these outfits.
How does the Gamera theme song stack up against songs from yesteryear?
Oh, well, it's interesting that you asked that because the opening lyric of the Gamera song has sort of a Rodgers and Hart feel to it. Let me show you what I mean. Gamera. Gamera.
Oh my God.
This is Fiona's dreams come true. Wow. Fiona, we gotta go to Marie's Crisis and recommend
Who is
it.
this man? This dapper man?
But then the second part is a little more fun, has sort of a George and Ira Gershwin feel to it. Shell, teeth, eyes, claws, scales, breath, fun. It sort of sneaks up on you. Boo, it says.
I think I'm in love.
Gamera's enchantment still grows. He fills our hearts with love. Gamera's the latest thing.
Beautiful
He fills our
falsetto.
hearts with spring, spring, spring. Anytime you want some moonbeams.
Whoa, this guy's going for it.
I love the direct to camera.
Gamera is really neat. He is filled with turtle meat. We all love you, Gamera.
Kill him. Better yet, I'll kill him. You push the button.
Holy shit. This guy basically gave the level of commitment of when in the Jekyll and Hyde musical, the guy who's playing Jekyll and Hyde is singing so intently, playing both characters. I love his commitment.
That's Mike Nelson right there. Great performance.
In my head, that's Tom grown up.
He becomes a loud singer, regaling people with stories of Gamera.
I love just the cyclical nature of things. You know, it's all gonna come full circle for me to buy it.
It's all coming back. Oh, well, this was fun, guys. I love Gamera.
We love you, Gamera. You are filled with turtle meat. You're just really neat. Thank you all so much for listening. Share the podcast with your friends, your family, anybody who loves weird movies, bad movies, sci-fi movies.
Great movies. Okay, come on,
Great
Ryan.
movies.
What kind of
Movie
fucking show are you on
musicals
here?
based on movies.
Turtle fans.
Based on movies. People who love kids.
Thank you so much for being here, Fiona. You were great.
Thank you for having me. Honestly, 5 years was worth the wait. It was a joy and a delight, and fun to see what Joanna's been doing every Saturday for the last 5 years.
I wish it was every Saturday.
Well, a lot of Saturdays, or maybe she just tells me whenever she doesn't want to hang out with me. No, I've got a podcast recording.
Could be. I'll leave you to discuss that off mic.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, everybody, and keep spreading the word of Godzilla.
Gamera.
The word of Gamera.
I mean Godzilla.
Bye.
Bye.
Godzillavangelists is brought to you by me, Ryan Sargent, and my friends, Joanna Brodecki and Sam Schlenker. All our incredible music is composed by Robert Mai, and our wonderful artwork is drawn by Cassidy Stone. This episode was edited by Dylan Jones. Special thanks to our families, friends, and the wonderful artists who made the movies we talked about today. Godzillavangelists is a satirical, critical work, not affiliated or endorsed by Toho, Legendary Pictures, or anyone behind the Godzilla series. Visit our website at godzillavangelists.com. We're also on Twitter at GodzillaCast and Instagram at GodzillaVangelists. If you prefer to listen to us online, we have a YouTube channel. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you join us next episode. In the meantime, keep spreading the word of Godzilla.